Next to me, our German guest, Billy Six. Any comments on the words of Professor Kees on the panel?
First of all, I'm happy to see you again.
Well, the feeling is mutual.
I am happy that there's still people not forgetting the MH17 case, even though we have very abnormal conditions now, we should mention. Last time we were talking in front of 300 people in Amsterdam, and now we are communicating through anonymous cameras. Very weird to me, but still thanks to the organizers as well that they didn't forget the trial, which is going to be continued on Monday.
Great to have you here, Billy. Billy did some great research in Ukraine. He visited the crash site. He talked to all kinds of witnesses. He talked to specialists in Germany, aviation experts, I think. But maybe you'd better tell it yourself. I'm sure you better tell it yourself. So please go on.
Yeah, and on 17th July 2014, I was in Kiev, Ukraine, and I saw the events live, the fear of the people, sadness of the people. Many went to the Dutch embassy in Kiev, and the days which followed, I went as a journalist into the UA Crisis Center, which was in Hotel Ukraina, with all the international journalists. And those were the days when the narrative was created. And I did believe the Bellingcat and GIT stories that time because there was nothing else. We didn't have any other information. And it was presented in a very, very convincing way. We saw these images, and there was Nalivaishenko from the SBU, there was the Foreign Minister Klimkin, there were many generals, and they were all deeply sad, and they showed us lots of photos, and yeah, what could we do? All the journalists there, international journalists, believed it because we didn't have any other information. For me, everything changed when I went to the crash site, when I saw the area, when I talked with the witnesses, and when I read on alternative media that there are other views. And we should never forget again and again to mention Max and his great job. Yeah, and so I started thinking and doing interviews with German militaries, former German militaries, and writing and making video documentaries. And it's not easy to talk against the mainstream because you feel the pressure quite a lot. And I made a little presentation on media propaganda, but I'm not so sure if the audience can see it behind me. Somebody is able to
some technician
check it.
Who's able to tell us.
Shall I remove myself so that the screen is free?
Yes, maybe we'd better.
Yeah.
Well, let's ask him, the cameraman, if...
Shall I sit on the side? Yeah.
So.
Oh, now I'm alone here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see it really good, or? Yeah. I want to focus a little bit on the German perception. Unfortunately, when the trial took place last time in March, wow, it's 3 months ago already. Unbelievable, 3 months, and nothing happened in that time. Yeah, the German media and audience didn't really care anymore. For most of Germans, the topic is already gone, and you said something very important. History is going to be made, is stamped. Well, for the Germans it's already, because we saw many times what I described just now from the UA Crisis Center. Actually, it's always the same story, the same facts or objects, pictures, whatever. For hostile newspapers, are more to be feared than 1,000 bayonets. It's what Napoleon said more than 200 years ago already. Wow. And at the moment, same as the Donbas people since 2014, all of us facing and feeling what media warfare means. I'm talking about the corona issue. Because many people say, oh, how can we meet each other? How can we come together? Journalist Yana Yerlashova can't come here today because there are no flights from Moscow. Or at least no one you could pay and be guaranteed to reach your destination. People are afraid all over the world, and it is because of images. Because when I'm asking, why are you afraid? The people say, oh, didn't you see the images from Italy? Oh yes, I saw the images. But it's the right expression, the images from Italy. It's very interesting.
So what do we see there?
Yeah, we see a hospital in Bergamo, and we see lots of sick people being intubated, lots of doctors running around. And the interesting point is, it was made by Sky News, British journalists. They received a special permission. Oh, somebody's calling us. It's for me or for you?
No, it's the Kremlin.
The Kremlin?
Yeah.
Did I say anything wrong? Or? Yeah. So the British journalists of Sky News received a special permission to enter the hospital at a time when it was forbidden for Italian journalists. And it was the Italian government, especially the foreign minister, who said in public, everybody must watch this documentary. Well, it never happened to me that any government said, you have to see Billy's documentary. So very, very interesting. But it is how the narrative here was made. And the first thing interesting for me, but I don't know, it looks very dark here. I hope you can see it. So the journalist who makes it is Stuart Ramsay of Sky News. And that was really strange to me. He was the only one wearing this astronaut dress in the hospital and running around all the time. I don't know if you can properly see it here. And I was wondering, because he's talking about the totally full hospitals and so on and so forth. And of course, if those images are real, and I don't have different evidence at the moment to say it is staged, but one thing has to be said. I didn't see the same inside of German hospitals. They are as empty as never before. And I have friends in Italy who tried to enter the hospitals, and they found hospitals totally closed and other hospitals empty as well. So, but it doesn't mean maybe in this hospital it was a case, but here they say it's like the general situation for all northern Italy. And yeah, it's what I doubt. To come back to this journalist Stuart Ramsay, that's why I mentioned the name, he's well known to be accused by the Romanian government to have staged another documentary in 2016. It was about international weaponry smugglers, because he said in a Sky News documentary, well, the Romanians or Romanian gangs are the ones who are bringing weapons to terrorists, to rebels, to fire the Syrian civil war. Of course, it's not the British and not the Americans, it was the Romanians, a gang. So the Romanian police found those people shown in the documentary and arrested them, and they discovered that all the rifles they had shown in the documentary were legal, normal hunting rifles, nothing for warfare. And the people arrested said to the police that the Sky News team paid them 2,000 euros to make up a story. So Sky News says, no, not true. But until now, it's not clarified what is the case here. Just an example to say, always be careful when you see any kind of images and pictures, and make up your mind yourself. In Germany, many people of free media do know Dr. Udo Ulfkotte, probably in Holland as well.
Yes, his book was translated into Dutch.
Ah, okay. I just know there's an English version, but it's interesting to know we have a Dutch one as well. He was mainstream journalist for many, many years for the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Let's translate it freely as Frankfurt Times. It's the most important German daily. And he always talked about an interesting story he faced in the Iran-Iraq war in the 80s. He says a group of journalists in the bus went somewhere into the desert, nothing happening, and they were all tanks, and then they came with their fuel in a gasoline box and prepared everything, put on fire, and then made up a story like, we are on the front line, very dangerous, this is happening here, that is happening here. So another example, how images can be falsified and can lie. And in his book he describes how narratives are made up. He says that he himself was part of a big corruption system. He was meeting with politicians, Secret Service officials, company representatives, and they discussed political issues. And of course, he as a journalist felt like, oh, I'm important, and he had benefits, and he didn't want to disagree with his friends. So the opinion of his so-called friends by time became his opinion. And just another example, he describes, for example, how he got trips to Oman for free by the Sultan, and well, pretty nice country if you have money and if you were invited by the Sultan, even more. So he never had interest to check anything connected with human rights situation in Oman, because well, there was a threat, maybe he could lose his benefits. When I was a schoolboy, the first time I heard about the issue that not everything in media is so nice as it seems was when I read the book The Story Hunter by Jürgen Bertram, who was mainstream journalist as well for many years, Spiegel, DPA, ARD, and he wrote a novel, so it's fictional, but I do remember one story of it, which is really inside of my mind. There is this journalist who tries, or who wants his career, and it's very difficult to climb up. So what he's doing, he's flying to Cambodia, and he's searching a child, and he gives money to him, and some sweets, and he says, please walk into the grassland. Yeah, a little more. And the camera targets him just until the moment when the landmine explodes. Boom. And then his TV channel is the one who presents itself to be the charity, whatever, to spend the operation, artificial legs. So they are the heroes to help that poor child. Well, Bertram doesn't say this happened in reality, but it gives you an example of how far journalists are able to go when it is about to make career and to earn money. Very important case in Germany, I think everybody knows his name now, is Klaas Relotius. He was the star journalist of Spiegel, and Spiegel is, I would say, the most important political magazine in Germany. And in 2018, Spiegel had to announce that this journalist has created lots of fake stories. And just to give an example, he went into US, into a small village, and he wants to show that people who like Trump are very bad and very primitive, so all his characters are like that. And he writes about this sign in the entrance, Mexicans keep out. And all this was invented. Same another story, he writes about refugees who are dreaming about Angela Merkel. So, if you check the internet, you will find it's now officially declared dozens of such stories. And yeah, Spiegel says they have like something like quality management. They are checking all articles if it's true or not. And yeah, nobody checked that something was wrong here with that guy. And he got so many prizes because he was writing what the mainstream wanted to hear. And it's always like the same things. Trump is bad, Putin is bad, refugees welcome, climate change is dangerous, whatsoever. So we can imagine what kind of stories were his type of, and there's no problem to write about it as long as it is a reality. But here, it wasn't. So Spiegel became very famous, coming back to our main subject here, with the title in 2014, Stop Putin jetzt, Stop Putin now, using the images of the victims in the plane, the 298 victims. And, well, Spiegel knew that year already what we don't even know today, claiming it was Putin. But there isn't any evidence not in the article, and I haven't seen until now anywhere. And the same narrative, I would say, everywhere in the Western world. Here we have another example from the Sun, from Britain, Putin's missile. And that is, and I come back to you, Kees, what keeps on going in the mind of the people. That's what they remember. Those images and headlines. It was Putin, it was Russia.
Sorry to interrupt you. It was this particular cover, Stop Putin Jetzt. It was created by a layout man from Bild-Zeitung.
From what?
Bild-Zeitung.
Bild-Zeitung.
Bild-Zeitung, yeah.
Mm. Well, I don't know if
these are two very different
newspapers.
Newspapers.
Yeah, with the same.
Der Spiegel quality, Bild-Zeitung.
Garbage.
Garbage. But
Yeah.
then they asked this person from Bild to make this cover image.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Thanks for adding this information here. It's very interesting because Bild and Spiegel used to be enemies like 50 years ago.
Mm.
So both sides of the spectrum. And now all is the same. Seems like it.
Same with us.
Yeah. And those people who are asking questions about evidence are, what are we?
Conspiracy theory.
Yes, because we ask questions about evidence. The judge in court should do the same, right? So maybe he is.
You would hope so.
If he does, he is a conspiracy theorist as well, because, well, what I heard from when I was in the court in March, because I talked with journalists and with the representatives of the court, yeah, actually they don't really want finally to prove that this story is true, because we know already, we read in media, we just want to prove that the book was brought from Russia into Ukraine. And everything else we know already. I mean, it's common sense, right? It's like the Earth is circulating around the sun. So I won't expect too much anymore from that trial, to be honest, and I'm very sad to say so. Oh, we have Higgins in here. By the way, he is a very nice guy if you talk with him personally. Yeah, so I don't know how he can write the things on MH17 like that, but I would invite you to meet him and learn to know him more. Not just because he's a very important figure in the MH17 case to make the international narrative, but also because it's good sometimes to know that you're not just talking with an anonymous figure on the internet. There's real people. But by the way, this was an Atlantic Council. I'm happy to talk here and to speak here, but I would talk in front of Atlantic Council as well about this subject. But Higgins was allowed, I was not. Don't know why.
He's associated to the Atlantic Council, isn't he?
Yeah. And he has the right narrative, or let's say the narrative Atlantic Council likes to promote. I want to talk about the Elliot Higgins of Germany. His name is Markus Benzmann of Correctiv. So Correctiv is a very important institution at the moment in Germany because they are the ones doing the censorship on Facebook. They are deciding what is a fake news and what is real news and what has to be deleted or shadow banned. They were founded in 2014 with the money of a billionaire who passed away. And now they receive lots of money from NGOs and big companies, including the Soros Foundation. And the first big project they had to do in 2014 was to clarify the MH17 case, to find the truth. And they did it with Spiegel and with Algemeen Dagblad of Holland. Maybe you can say some words about this paper?
Algemeen Dagblad, yes, it was produced in cooperation with Algemeen Dagblad. That's all I know.
No, just some words about who is Algemeen Dagblad.
It's a national newspaper, originally from Rotterdam, I think. But then, yeah, it's a big newspaper. The circulation, I should, about 500,000, maybe.
Yeah, it's the largest in the Netherlands, I think.
The largest, even.
I
thought
think
it was a
larger
Telegraaf.
than the Telegraaf. Yeah, it's the same sort of very general, very bland newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not talking about anybody here. We are just or about
It's very big.
very
It's a big newspaper.
So we have important players here, and of course Bellingcat as well participated indirectly, and they made this story. You can still find it in the internet. It's a long article. You can be some hours there watching all the videos and the audios, and there are sub-articles as well. It's a big research, but again, presenting the same narrative which was made on 17th July 2014 already.
Der zweite Grimme Online Award 2015 in der Kategorie Information geht an MH17, die Suche nach der Wahrheit. Die Jury meint dazu, investigative Journalisten sind Gegenentwürfe zur medialen Aufgeregtheit der Katastrophenberichterstattung. MH17, die Suche nach der Wahrheit, ist ein solcher Gegenentwurf. Das Ergebnis einer großen Rechercheleistung, perfekt aufbereitet.
Die Idee ist halt, dass ich von diesem Konzept des Narrativs nichts halte. Wir Journalisten sind da, die Realität zu suchen. Ja, wir sind nicht da, irgendwelche Interpretationen nachzuhängen. Und da muss man halt vor Ort gehen und gucken. Also es ist die Online-Recherche, die Online-Erkenntnisse, die wir haben, aber letztendlich muss man an die Türen klopfen und das haben wir getan. Und bei so einer Geschichte muss man halt vor Ort gehen.
Markus Benzmann, David Straven, Daniel Drepper, Julia Brötz und Thorsten Franke.
Many people, big audience, and they're presented as heroes, and everybody claps their hand and they say, wow, this is investigative journalism. Look, they go into Ukraine and they really research and they ask everyone and they showed the truth to us, and that's why they received the Grimme Prize. And later on they received more prizes as well. So, but if you look deeper into this research, you find many strange things. Actually, you find that they lied about many things. And the first point already, and Max van der Werf, we mentioned him today, in 2015 already said, how is possible that the launch site Correctiv found of this so-called book missile, where all the witnesses are, as they claim, is nearly 10 kilometers away from the launch site Elliot Higgins Bellingcat says. So something is wrong here. And well, now the JIT decided, no, Bellingcat is right and Correctiv is wrong, but they didn't remove this research, still the same, and they still have the prize. And Max found the person which is called in the Correctiv research to be the main witness who saw the vehicle and the launch of the missile and blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, I never talked with a German journalist and I didn't see any book. And I was there some months before Max and yeah, that's a picture you can see. Jetzt sind wir also an dem Ort, wo Markus Benzmann seine Recherchen gemacht hat. Snischnoja ist dort. Hier ist das Fabrikgelände. Ja? Und da hinten sehen wir den Bahndamm und Puschkinski, das kleine Dorf, was er beschrieben hat. Und seine Recherchen gehen ja dahin zu sagen, dass hier auf diesem Feld ja, die Buk-Rakete abgeschossen worden sein soll. Wir werden jetzt mal mit Leuten sprechen. This man says, Markus Benzmann, journalist from Germany, that Buk missile was shot from this field. Did you see a trail in the sky in this day?
Видели вы след от Бука?
Нет, следа от Бука я не видел. Ни с какой стороны.
And you also told me that you heard the sound of two planes in the sky. Could you maybe describe this?
Можете
Rush.
объяснить, какие это были звуки? Два звука от самолета.
Ну, звук один это точно пассажирского, потому что над нами проходит трасса, они постоянно летали в одно и то же время. Второй звук был другой, во всяком случае, более слабый. Но тоже самолет.
So, I found a student who lives in Pushkinsky. Yeah? Pushkinsky. Yeah. You were here in 17th of July. What did you see?
Ну, получается, в этот день мы с друзьями находились здесь, и услышали два взрыва. Сначала звуки самолетов. Один, получается, звучит как реактивный, а второй, просто как пассажирский. Они тут часто бывают, летали и слышно. И, в общем, после этого услышали два взрыва. Один слабенький, а второй такой, что окна задрожали. Потом повернулись, на небе никаких следов, ничего нет. Только дым со стороны Грабова и все.
Did you see a trail of a missile in the sky?
Видел след с земли в небо.
Нет,
Didn't see.
не было ничего.
But you looked around.
Вы смотрели кругом,
Да,
да?
мы везде все осмотрели, нигде никаких следов.
By the way, how is corrective financed? Can you tell something about that?
Yeah, Anneliese Brost was a billionaire in media entrepreneur, and she died, and some millions were left. And then Bodo Hombach, who was the chief director of the Chancellor's office before, organized that the money is used to make a great charity project. And the idea was, at the beginning, quite good to say, well, people don't trust media, so we should create an institution to control the media and to check the media. But the result is mainstream media is always right and everyone else is always wrong. This is how corrective is working. Yeah. And later on they received money from companies and especially the NGO of George Soros. So I don't know why we see black in here. One part of this corrective documentary is their expert Harry Hollings from Holland, from Leiderdorp, I think. And they say, yes, he is the evidence for us that a jet was not involved because Harry Hollings says impossible. So I went to him. In den Medien wird sehr viel gesprochen über MH17. Ja. Und in einer berühmten Reportage aus Deutschland von Korrektiv, die Suche nach der Wahrheit, sind sie mehrfach zitiert worden. Sie wurden einmal vorgestellt als niederländischer Kampfpilot.
Und das stimmt nicht. Ich habe zwar eine Ausbildung gehabt an der Testpilotenschule der amerikanischen Luftwaffe, aber als Flugerprobungsingenieur, nicht als Kampfjetpilot.
Hier geht es nämlich genau ums Radar. Zugleich ist der aktive Radar einer Buk nicht in der Lage, einen Flugzeugtyp eindeutig zu bestimmen. Militärjet, Passagiermaschine. Das können die Raketenschützen nicht ohne weiteres erkennen. Sie sehen nur, ob Freund oder Feind im Anflug ist. Freund sind nur die Flieger des eigenen Staates, der eigenen Luftwaffe. Feinde sind alle anderen. Zivile Flugzeuge wie MH-17 sehen aus wie Feinde. Wenn ein Flugzeug keinen oder falschen Code liefert, handelt die Luftabwehr, als wäre es ein Feind, sagt Rawlings.
Ja, das stimmt, wenn es Kriegszeit ist. Aber war es hier Krieg? Ja, am Boden vielleicht schon, aber nicht in der Luft. Weil noch immer war es kein Problem, dass das Zivilflugzeuge flogen überhalb von 30.000 Fuß oder was. Ne? So, da oben in der Luft war es kein Krieg. Dabei kommt, dass alle Flugzeuge, zivil und militär, haben einen Transponder, heißt das. Da stellt der Pilot einen Code in einem Gerät im Cockpit. Die Code empfängt er von den Fluglotsen am Boden. Und dann kann der Fluglotse sehen, mit was für Flugzeug er redet. Das ist das Sekundärradar, heißt das. Die sendet einen Code und wenn das Flugzeug getroffen wird von diesen Radarstrahlen, sendet der die Code zurück am Boden. Dann kann man das sehen. In Kriegszeit werden bestimmte Codes gebraucht und nur die Flugzeuge, die eine Code haben, können als freundlich worden erfahren. Alle anderen sind dann nicht freundlich oder Feind.
Das wäre, wie Sie sagten, im Kriegsfall. Aber unter Krieg verstehen Sie jetzt wirklich eine Auseinandersetzung zwischen zwei Staaten, wo dann aber auch der Luftraum generell für Zivilmaschinen gesperrt wäre, oder?
Ja, dann kommen da keine Passagierflugzeuge rein.
Also dann könnte sowas auch gar nicht vorkommen?
Nee, kann nicht. Das ist nicht richtig, was hier steht.
Ja. Haben die denn überhaupt mit Ihnen gesprochen? Korrektiv, Markus Benzmann, haben Sie die Namen schon mal gehört?
Nein, die habe ich nicht gehört. Ich bin angerufen von einer Radiostation, wer heißt das auch wieder?
Deutschlandfunk?
Deutschlandfunk war das. Und wir haben geredet über diese Dinge. Aber vielleicht habe ich nicht verstanden, was genau die Frage war, oder habe meine Antworten nicht gut verstanden. Das ist auch möglich. Aber ja, ich kann nicht anders dann, wenn ich dies lese, sagen, das stimmt nicht, was da steht. Das kann ich auch nicht so gemeint haben. Weil ich weiß von Flugzeugen, ich weiß, wie die funktionieren und wie das geht.
So, but the old quotes of him are still in the research. They don't, and I wrote them several times, and I wrote we have some boards to control media in Germany, and I wrote them and said, look, they had to give the Grimme Prize, and those are the facts. Here the guy is talking on video. So, no, nothing happened. It's just ignored. And yeah, that's the video also not working, I guess. Yeah, not working. So, and another claim of the corrective research is they said, like, this guy, Ivan Krasnoproshin, he's responsible for downing MH17 because they found in internet he was posting in VK Kontakte photos of him in a book. And he was in the Russian army. So he said, someone like this must be responsible. And the evidence is, the so-called evidence, they found a logbook and said, oh, 2014 in June, he's signing out, he's leaving the army, and that's the evidence that he went to Ukraine. But if you look yourself carefully, you see that he left the army in 2013 already, not in 2014. So what, and even if it was 2014, what evidence is it for? How can that prove that he went into Ukraine with his book to shoot MH17? And just another point, why he is not accused in court now, if corrective has all the overwhelming evidence against him. So there are lots of reasons actually to delete this documentary research totally and to cancel the Grimme Award for corrective, but it doesn't happen. What happens is that mainstream media backs corrective, supports it, because I went with Graham Phillips 2016 into their office and we tried a conversation with this Mr. Benzmann, and then the issue escalated a bit. Actually, they kicked us out of the office. And I thought, okay, that was it. But 2 days later, a huge campaign in the media started. The Bild-Zeitung was the first pro-Russian attack in Berlin, in editor's desk. NTV said we were masked when we entered the office. The Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung said we rioted inside of the office. And in the Deutsche Welle, it was said or described as a terrorist act. Lots of politicians declared on Twitter, yeah, we are very solidaric against Putin because what Putin did in Berlin was very bad. It was just us two deciding spontaneously we should go there and try to find him.
Maybe you should explain Graham Phillips. You mentioned Graham Phillips.
Yeah, I think everybody knows him, but I mean, he is disputed. He's a blogger, a freelance journalist who was long time in Ukraine and especially in Donbass. And yeah, he's very pro-Donbass, and that's why he's disputed. And yeah, and he came to make an interview with me, actually. That was his reason to come to Berlin. And I told him about my problems with Correctiv because they didn't answer my questions, the issues I mentioned before. And he said, okay, so let's visit them and we can do something out of it. But I was not expecting this huge wave of attack happening, yeah. Well, that time, it was still possible to go into YouTube and to express yourself, because all these newspapers didn't talk with us, the ones I showed just now. They just asked Correctiv for their opinion, and that was the truth. And Mr. Phillips and me, we didn't exist at all. Just in the articles, of course, as terrorists, but not as to having a chance to describe the issue. But it was possible to write our own story on Facebook, on YouTube, but I really fear that's going to change now because we see lots of censorship on Facebook and YouTube, and this year videos of mine for the first time were censored by YouTube, all those things mentioning Corona. And I think you described the role of social media. I would go a little further and talk about Orwellian situation, because if courts can take material from social media, but at the same time somebody, and we don't even know who, decides what will be deleted and what is remaining, so that means the gate is open to manipulation, and we have no chance anymore. And that's why it's so important to me that we use the chances we still have, and we keep in contact and in touch. And yeah, I ask everyone to support the free media. Thanks a lot.